34?
34. Still here.
Still here.
And we have a topic.
We have a topic. Just came up with it a minute ago.
We've been watching a show called Deep Space on Gaia. But I think it's like a long 4-season type of a thing, so we're still not even done with it. So, but I figure everything that has been coming up on my end with stuff that is related to it, I was guided to watch it. I think that I should say that. So I was guided to watch it because things were already coming up for me, and so the topic is not because we have watched a conspiracy theory show, but because I think there's some truth to things. So,
yeah.
New level of crazy for us.
Taking it to the next level.
It's as if it's already not crazy.
Right.
We're going to go to the next level. I wonder what's after this. I think, right now, and I told you this a couple of days ago, I feel like there's this. Well, actually, last night I had a dream, but I feel like there's this baseline of knowledge or baseline of belief or baseline of structures that we have been accustomed to, you and I, especially me, for the last 40 years, right? Like my personal set of definitions that are like, oh yeah, everything is hunky-dory and everything is this and this and this, right? And there's this belief structure that is being kind of like that the earth runs on that is very obvious right now. And then at the same time, what I'm seeing internally and what I'm feeling internally is there's this actual knowledge, like actual truth. And it is like ginormous. And most of the people are not aware of it.
Like behind the veiled truth?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I guess maybe behind the veil. But from the standpoint of spirituality and the standpoint of extraterrestrial existence, and then honestly too kind of exist as a almost like as one entity on Earth, right? Because we keep them separate, but we don't realize that they're the same. Like we are just, most of us, including me, until quite recently, like are completely unaware of this larger narrative, larger story.
Right.
And this is not to say that like everything we're getting ready to say is truth.
Right.
We're just going to
talk
about our opinion of it.
Yeah. I'm not even convinced that everything that we've seen on that show is true. But even if a small percentage of it is true, it's mind-blowing.
Well, the fact that I was guided to watch that show and everything that we are watching right now has to do with acceptance of other beings or other races.
Mm-hmm.
Not races by human standpoint, like races of extraterrestrial races.
Right. But if we can't even accept other human races, it's going to be really hard to accept an extraterrestrial race.
Yeah, but I think we're getting ready to reach a point of, whatever disclosure that they were attempting to take place will it will come about in a different way, I think, in the near future. And I don't know what that near future looks like. But okay, so what part of it do we want to address first?
Let's say what the show is.
Do what?
Let's say what the show is.
We haven't even said the name.
The name. You said the name, but you haven't described what it is.
Oh, go ahead.
So Deep Space on Gaia is a show about what started off as like. Did it start off with like
Project Paperclip?
Project Paperclip, which was in the late 1940s, after World War II, the Nazis had all these scientists who had worked on, aerospace and rockets and advanced stuff. And the Soviet Union and the United States both wanted these scientists, and they kind of took as many as they could. And so we, under the project called Project Paperclip, I mean, you can look it up. It's a real thing. We, the United States, basically gave amnesty to all these Nazi scientists and brought them over, and then made them in charge of our space program. To the extent that we had existing American scientists that were displaced out of the program, and the Nazis, former Nazis, maybe not, took over. Werner von Braun being the most famous example. He was the head of NASA.
Yeah, and he was like not that far away from Hitler's like
Yeah,
second-hand man, right-hand man, right?
he was up there. And, you know, I can't say one way or the other if they were, you know, they had strong political leanings to or against the Nazi beliefs. I don't know. Were they just scientists who wanted to work on stuff and now here's an opportunity to work for it, and I don't really care who I'm working on it, who I'm working for on this, and oh, that used to be them, now it's them. I don't know. But it sure, the way the show portrayed it's kind of uncomfortable realizing how infiltrated might be a weird word, but
Yeah.
our space programs and maybe the
Like
atomic
military,
the atomic
military,
programs,
defense
the
program.
defense programs were with these former or maybe not so former Nazi scientists.
Yeah, that was scary to figure out.
I was like, oh, that's a lot, and some of them, according to the show, maintain communication back with their buddies in Berlin, or maybe their buddies in Antarctica, where the Nazis may have had another secret base.
Yeah, and that's documented.
Even after the war.
Yeah, it was documented that during the war they were setting up a base in Antarctica to do all of their like secret weapon research,
right?
And aircraft, I guess.
Right. Yeah. It was that they the Nazis divided their program into two. There was the what we think of as a normal space program with rockets that shoot hot gases out of the bottom, and they go the V2 and all that stuff. If you see a rocket, that's what I'm talking about as the normal space program.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the other space program, which I don't know if they reverse engineered alien technology. I don't know if they invented it themselves, but they allegedly had these, what we would call flying saucers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was the one that was in Antarctica. And at some point, we sent a.
There was a name for this.
There's a name for it.
I don't remember what it was. Hunt. Does it start with H? Hun. O G. It was basically a mission that sent submarines
and naval ships
to Antarctica to basically like fight the Nazis on their Antarctica base. This is like post World War II. I think this is 1947.
Yeah. And then those ships came home with their tail tucked between their legs because whatever was down there, and the way it was described is basically flying saucers.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
demolish
their ships.
Yeah.
And we can't fight these things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Not with the equipment that we had in 47.
Yeah, not with guns.
Yeah. But I think that, honestly, if you think about it, if United States finishes, if the world finishes World War II in 45, right? And then they yanked the scientists, and then they said that a lot of them were actually running towards the United States sites because the Soviets were trying to grab them and the Americans were trying to grab them. And they're like, okay, we don't like Americans, but we really, really, really do not like the Russians. And so,
yeah.
And so they just all kind of like, what's the word? Defected.
Yeah.
To the Americans instead of being captured by the Russians.
To go. And there's a photo. Here it is, if I can find it, of was it like 100 of them at least?
Mm-hmm.
That that one photo I'm talking about?
Yeah. No, but the truth was they said it was over 3,000.
Yeah.
3,000 or 30,000. It was some mind-crushing number. When I heard, I went, oh.
That's a lot of Nazis.
And, and this is another take on it, and this is what I thought of personally, is, Nazis had a very, large hatred or dislike of the Soviet Union at the time. And the World War II finishes, all the Nazis come to the United States, right? So by 47, they're in full swing of their works here. And what happens in the early 50s? The Cold War.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like, there's no way that's not related.
Yeah, the show said that
I don't know if the show said that.
It implied that at least.
It implied that.
That there was a, at least partially due to the, Nazi or former Nazi influence, who really had a strong disdain for communism.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's right. They
that
just
kind of led us into the Cold War. As we will. Well, you almost need a bad guy. You as society needs someone to rally against
a broken society.
a broken society. Yes, Um, and so the Nazis have been defeated. Yay! But now we need someone new. Now we need the communists. Now we need the Soviet Union as someone to rally against, and that certainly helps fund
It
all
helps
kinds of
fund.
research.
Yeah.
Because we need new weapons and missiles and technology and spying stuff and all
Yeah.
this great stuff.
But at the same time, the race for space kind of started right there afterwards, right?
Mhm.
To where, like, wait, so Russians got a whole bunch of former Nazi scientists that were developing advanced technologies, and the United States got majority of them, right? And by the mere nature of you knowing the Soviet Union is working on it, you almost by default have to go, well, heck, if they're working on it, we have to be working on it.
Mhm.
And then I guess after the 47's battle in Antarctica that the naval ships lost, you also then go, wait, but then there's this other form that we have to fight. So not only are we trying to be the stronger military power against Russia.
Jumpsuit, jump,
I don't know, something.
jumpsuit, jump rope.
I don't know. You'll put up a picture of the dude who spearheaded it all, and I think he came back saying, like, these flying saucers came out and they started shooting us, and we had no way of really doing anything against that. They're too fast and too whatever weapon systems I had at the time. I don't think they had laser weapon systems at the time. I think they were regular weapon systems. But since then they have moved on. So there's that. So season 1 was the Project Paperclip, and then the extent in which basically the all the space technology was at the time developed by the former Nazis.
Mm.
I don't remember. Second 2 and 3 kind of went into. Oh no, they started to touch on the aspects of the Roswell crashes in the 50s.
I think
54 and 56.
maybe.
And then there's a lot of interviews by the people who actually were briefed on the Roswell crashes, that they were indeed extraterrestrial spacecraft with extraterrestrials on board.
Well, there's some of them are conflicting. Plenty of them say yes that they're extraterrestrial. Yes, we found some living, some dead extraterrestrials in there, and some of them said, "Oh no, this might have been maybe Nazi technology."
Yeah, so some of the crashes were like the Nazis developing their flying saucers.
Yeah. So the fact that there's conflicting reports is weird, but I don't know what to do with that.
But the season 4,
either way, nobody's debating the fact that some sort of technology, which normal people would think is magic, has crashed here.
Yeah. But the season 4, the guy there who used to work at the DoD somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And was briefed on all of the Los Alamos
and he said that
Area 51 things.
Definitely.
Well, and then they had captured the prisoners, the Gray, that survived, and then the Gray was basically disclosing to them what all this technology was.
Yeah. One of the seasons talks about the various natural satellites, the moon, our moon, maybe some was it Enceladus of Saturn or Jupiter?
I remember. I thought it was Jupiter.
And our moon is very anomalous in the solar system, between the size of the moon to the size of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one quarter the diameter of the Earth, but it's 1/81th of the mass, which doesn't really add up. You'd think it'd be 1/16th, based on if it's the same density, but it's really not dense. It's very what's the opposite of dense?
Well, I mean, they basically saying that they're
yeah. So they're so they're saying that it might be hollow, which sounds crazy.
20 miles
But
deep.
20 to 25
So it's a
miles
solid surface.
of crust on all the way around, and then maybe some sort of
Base.
structure inside.
Yeah.
And the depth of the craters on the moon is anomalous too. There's some really big craters, hundreds of mile diameter craters, but they're only like a mile or two deep. They're not, you would expect it to be, close to the depth, the depth to be close to the radius of that impact, but they're just not. They just kind of hollow out. They all kind of hollow out to the same depth, implying that there's something hard a mile or two underneath harder than just the moon dust or moon rock, a mile or two deep. I don't know. Also, they put seismometers on the moon when we landed on it, and when the return module blasted off, and then the booster part falls back down, and then the people part connects to the orbiter to go back home. When it falls back down, it crashes into the moon. And the seismometers recorded it, and it, quote, rang like a bell for hours. That you would expect an impact like that to make seismic activity for, what they say, 2 to 3 minutes. It was 3 or 4 hours, and it kept, because I guess you can tell with seismometers where it's how deep it is bouncing off of stuff. And they said it bounced like 22 miles down, but the fact that it continued for hours implies that it was hollow. Because if it was solid, that would have absorbed it. In the same way that if you have a big chunk of steel and you hit it, yeah, it makes a noise. But if you hollow it out into the shape of a bell, it keeps ringing for a long time.
Oh, on the size of that, it keeps on ringing for a long time, right? It would ring based on the diameter of the object,
which is
or the
really,
spherical diameter.
Really something.
Yeah, and then when they released the dialogue between Armstrong and
Aldrin and, was it Collins?
Yeah,
and they're all flying, I guess, around the moon at this point, and the
maybe put up the
transcript.
The transcript, yeah.
Yeah, this is the official NASA transcript. I don't remember who it was, but one of them said, "Oh yeah, look at those cone-shaped craters down there. I bet the people who live in them don't get out much," or something like that. And it's like, what? You're just talking about the people who live in them.
Oh, and then they continue to talk about the people who live in them. The conversation was not like, if there are people in there, they're sure not climbing out. No, the conversation was, the people in there, as if they know that there's people in there, can really get out based on the shape of the crater. And so he's assuming that they live in the crater.
Yeah, it's wild.
Right. So why would that be released?
I don't know.
Right. Or why would that not? Why would they have this conversation as a pretense, knowing that it will not be released, and then basically based on whatever the expiration of the documents or whatever they just decide to release.
Yeah.
And so then this is the big part, I guess. Maybe this is the biggest indication here. What was the report that we just looked up?
The Brookings report.
Brookings report. Yeah.
1960. I forgot who it was that commissioned it. If it was the
United States government. Somebody in the United States government.
We commissioned the Brookings report from the Brookings Institute, which is like a think tank. It was like, if we hypothetically were to discover alien life, should we tell the people about it? Was what they asked the Brookings Institute to think tank on. And they produced the Brookings report, which more or less said, yeah, you shouldn't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. It'll cause mass panic. It'll destabilize the United States economy and the world economy, and chaos will ensue. You should keep that secret.
Yeah.
If you find that out. So there's that.
Yeah. And then on the show, there's a reporter. Her name is Linda Moulton Howe.
Yeah.
And she's a legitimate reporter, but she does a lot of reporting on UFOs, and at some point, somebody in the DoD, but I don't know what branch of the DoD, took her in and
Kirtland Airport Base
so yeah, I mean some
is that New Mexico, right?
they wanted her to read a
He said,
report.
I was told to let you read this, but you can't take notes.
Yeah, but you could ask questions.
Yeah.
And so she said she sat in this big room with one desk in it and one chair, and she sat on it reading this, I don't know, what sounded like long report. But she memorized portions of it. She's like, I was trying to go through and memorize like lines, right? And the report talked about it was basically, the report was meant for the president at the time.
Yeah, it was an executive summary for the president.
Yeah. But she was getting it recently, but this summary was back
It was for Reagan, right?
I don't remember.
I want to say it was for Reagan.
But she read it recently based on the disclosure efforts. But of course the report was long, compiled long ago.
Yeah.
And it talked about the research, I think, the Brookings report, and then the United States government truly believing that it was in the best interest of the entire country to keep all of this secret.
Yeah.
And then it laid out steps in which they would take to basically deny or place disinformation for the last 70 years to ensure that any evidence of extraterrestrials or any evidence.
Oh, that was was it SOM 101?
Well, that too.
That was the one that was leaked. Which she read something different.
No, did she read something different?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's something else that was leaked.
Yeah, and it had the operate, basically, here's what you do if there is a extraterrestrial crash. You deny. You hide it as quick as you can. You come up with, any of these plausible cover stories. Oh, it was a weather balloon. Oh, it was, an atmospheric phenomenon.
It laid out all the stories you would come up with.
And, you never admit that it was extraterrestrial. You never admit it was anything weird. It was, there's a plausible explanation. It was ball lightning. It was whatever.
And it was just discredit, basically discredit the witnesses.
I think it even said, that we the government have people in various media outlets who will assist with this,
make the story seem silly.
Yeah.
And discredit anyone who actually has evidence thereof.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing. I was thinking, if the Brookings report comes out, right, and I have no idea why they made this determination. Maybe in the 1960s, this was not the right time. I have no idea. Right. But the show does talk about how after all the crash landings and actually them finding the bodies of the extraterrestrials and then establishing communication with them, there was a huge influx within the media and even like Hollywood of Earth, extraterrestrials, right? Like the narrative came into Hollywood. Now, it was not like we're friends and shaking hands narrative. But it was more of like, one, they exist, and two, the reaction to them was a little bit hostile or afraid.
Well, yeah, because I don't know if the Brookings report said it, but that SOM 101 manual, I thought said, that we would use, our influence in Hollywood to basically mold the public opinion of what aliens are. And I don't remember, we heard before the original what's the name of it?
Star Trek?
No. The movie. Keanu Reeves did the remake.
When the Earth Stood Still?
The Earth Stood Still. Was kind of like a message.
Yeah, no, it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a message.
It starts off with, I never saw the original, but I assume the remake's vaguely the same. We're all terribly afraid of this, alien to the point where some soldier ends up accidentally shooting him, and but he's just here to figure out if this planet is safe with us, if we are the threat
No,
to the planet.
Yeah. Well, no, he comes out, I think, with already determination that the planet, we are a threat to the planet.
Yeah. And so he basically presses the reset button. It's just going to wipe the planet clean until he realizes, there's something. We're not a lost cause yet.
Yet. Right?
Yet.
Yeah. No, and the way they portray that story is not dissimilar to everything, that I've been given as a message by that the Earth itself. I mean, regardless of how important or not important humans are, Earth itself is very important.
Yeah.
Right. And preservation of Earth, of the biodiversity of, all the species and the land as is being monitored and being taken care of from, like, I would say, people who are able to do that. And, our efforts are not the best.
Not the best. What Linda Moulton Howe read, it said that the government has confirmed with, I assume, with actual alien beings, that the human race is the result of genetic modification on the behalf of aliens for lesser primates. So, maybe evolution got Earth from, single cell bacteria to primates, but it was alien intervention that got us from primates to Homo sapien sapien.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you can look at an ape or chimpanzee, and you can look at a human and go, well, yeah, I see some similarities.
But when we watch those TikToks, their behavior is completely
Right.
human-like.
It is, but
I mean, like the gestures, and
Yeah.
they're not learning the gestures from human. That is them, and we're just still kept it from them.
Yeah, I mean, there's an incredible amount in common, but at the same time, there is something that only humans seem to possess too.
Yeah, but yes, they basically have evidence.
Yeah.
The entire history of human genome is extraterrestrial manipulation.
There is, I think we saw that on Gaia too, but chromosome 2 of humans is really weird and is not like anything else. And if you look at whatever chromosome 2's equivalent is in our closest ancestor, it's wildly different. It's like that's the one that looks like an X, isn't it? Or
Yeah, I don't know.
whatever it is. There's no easy there's no easy explanation to go from whatever it was to the way chromosome 2 is today.
Yeah.
Evolutionarily, it's so wildly different.
The message. So we watched the show last night, and then I go to bed and I enter into my, receival state of being, and the message that I get is we have two different sequences into our genome, and I don't actually know what that means because I'm not a biologist or a scientist. I don't see it as two DNA strands, but I see it as two sequences within our genome. So that might make sense. Like within our DNA, there are two separate sequences, and the one sequence is the original sequence to Earth, and the other sequence is the sequence of basically our other extraterrestrial origin, right? And that this is the weird part, that we can choose to tune in into the variants of the sequences, and then through the variants, we can basically apply ourselves into our almost like cognitive perception, into our humanoid, like Earth-centered genome. I'm assuming from the original DNA of the primates that we're still related to. into the extraterrestrial genome that has both of them carry enormous amount of information and knowledge within them, right? But what they're saying is there's this cognitive choice into what information you receive, right? Into what it's almost like an operational system in which you can reference. And they said that that's available to us, that we can reference either one. And then in my dream state or in my subdued state, I actually like get a feeling of what it feels like to reference the one I have always referenced, or actually go into the other half of the genome and reference that.
Which one have you always referenced?
The human side of it. No, I say the human. All of it is human, right? I mean, this when we say that they designed us as humanoid, they said it was 2,000 years ago, right? So
More than that.
No, 20,000.
I don't remember.
Oh no, 2,000 years ago was when the Greys started coming to alter the Earth biology, whatever it was. This is, let's say, thousands and thousands, if not millions of years old.
Yeah.
So I say, but I say that it's interesting. Our time frames are marked by our linear time and space, which is something that our human side of the genome can interpret. But they say that the extraterrestrials function outside of time, right? And they can actually like draw. What was the word that they used? Draw timelines out.
Yeah, they can like spawn off
a timeline, alter it, or work with it,
do whatever they want,
and
then
then
collapse
delete
it back and delete it. And so
delete it. So our evolutionary process to us seems very linear.
which is almost. Do you remember the TV show
Peripheral?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they were doing something like that in Peripheral. They were making new timelines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Humans were doing it in that show. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so and everything that I have received in the past has been very similar to the narrative that one, we're not alone. I guess I have always known that, right? Because like just the idea of us being the only ones out there doesn't actually make sense. And that I had so many dreams where I am elsewhere. I say dreams, right? But experiences where I'm elsewhere, and elsewhere is not our interpretation of Earth. And it's very real. And the way the gravity works is different. So, then you start to think of like, well, we interpret gravity in this very literal way or this very specific way, but other people interpret gravity differently. What else did they say on there? Oh yeah. So at some point they said that NASA hired a theological research institute of some sort,
Right. Paid
with
the
a $1.5 million grant to do a research on a theory of what it would happen to religion if the individuals on Earth were to find out that humans, are extraterrestrials, and that the entire theory of God and religion was actually a story of extraterrestrial origin and not of Jesus, the
supernatural
human magical man who floats and walks on water.
Right. Which is both of us were like, that is a weird thing for NASA, the government to fund.
NASA. It was NASA.
To pay millions of dollars to a theological research group to do that. That is really, really weird. And
Right.
why would you do that unless you have a strong reason to believe that that is really the case?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who have some, I would say, compelling evidence that this is actually the case. Eric von Daniken
Yeah.
One of them saying that, yeah, the gods from back in the day, yeah, those are extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm.
Was it,
Zechariah Stitchin is also, that was his theory as well. And he they plowed him into my head, and so I have not read his books yet. But his theory, he was a immigrant who moved to, what did they use the word Persia, or I mean obviously it wouldn't have been Persia. I don't know, somewhere over there. So he learned Sumerian, ancient Hebrew, and then modern Hebrew. Palestine, maybe he moved to Palestine, and then was able to translate the Sumerian tablets and text. And this is his primary theory, is that human origin, the entire story of human origin, is in extraterrestrial. All biblical stories of the past that talk about the chariots and the spinning wheels and the lightning bolts and the burning bushes are all basically like portals opening up,
yeah,
and people coming through the portals and giving us the tablets, and giving us, commandments or whatever, in order to set up our race for structure and success. So it's all very benevolent in attempts to further humanity into the process of enlightenment.
yeah. Eric von Daniken talks about, I think it was Ezekiel,
Mm-hmm.
who according to the is that in the Bible or is that an apocryphal text? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I don't remember if they included Ezekiel. No, they for sure did not include Enoch.
Yeah,
Yeah, they just the Enoch, because Enoch very obviously talks about extraterrestrial stuff.
yeah. But thousands of years ago, spaceship, flying saucer. These are not words that are you would use. You would, well, it's like a bird, I guess, or it's like a cloud, I guess. And these,
Yeah.
and that's the type of language that he uses. And biblical scholars were like, well, he's talking about this most spectacular thing. Obviously, he's talking about God. Well, he never says God. He says, it's the spectacular thing, or whatever the word is.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Donikin's position is that, yeah, this is a, I mean, his account is that they came down, they said, please come with us. He said, okay. So he voluntarily went, and this flying machine flew him over somewhere into a high mountain and, let him explore there. He called it a temple, but, Von
Because
Daniken's,
he believes that they're
because
sacred,
what else
right?
could it be other than a temple, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a giant structure. And what giant structures do we have? 2000 BC or whenever you have temples. Von Daniken's position is that it was a landing pad or a base or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, measure it. And he's like, why measure it? And he's like, you need to measure it so that you can, tell the world about it. And so he measures it. And all these measurements, it's so many cubits by so many cubits and this and that. It's all laid out in this scripture.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew a guy who created a model of the flying machine based on
From NASA. A
guy
German
from NASA,
scientist.
a German scientist from NASA created it based
because
on.
NASA had him presenting.
That's
there,
right.
Like NASA literally hired him to come to Huntsville, Alabama, back when their offices were there. I don't know if they're still there or not, and give a presentation to NASA on his theory. Which
Mhm.
I'm like, does he not realize that alone?
That's a really esoteric theory for worldly scientists to swallow. But
Right.
someone was like, who was very skeptical. He's like, I'm gonna go and model this thing based on the exact measurements out of the scripture just to prove you wrong. That was his intention.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes and he models it, and he's like, yeah, actually, this is like a viable craft.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up publishing a book about it, starting off with, I 100% started this to disprove Eric von Daniken,
Mm-hmm.
but I am now a true believer. And then he had another guy
years later,
maybe in Switzerland, I don't remember.
Yeah, somewhere.
Who?
Well, Eric von Daniken is from.
He is Swiss.
Swiss, okay.
But the second guy did basically the same thing, and he built a model of the landing site
Because it was also
as
in the
described.
Bible.
Yeah, as described with all these just just oodles of measurements, just to the cubit, how many cubits by cubits. And Von Daniken's like, you two need to talk to each other because you built the model of the base and you built the model of the ship, and in the end, the ship fit perfectly into the landing spot on this base. It just fit perfectly.
Yeah.
And it's
but the base almost looked like a stadium, right? So he said it was almost like a stadium with all these levels, and the spacecraft parked itself inside. And so the nuance is, if the spacecraft was calculated to be bigger than the walls of the stadium in which it fits inside, it wouldn't have worked. And he's like, they just perfectly fit. So it's not like it was a flat land and the spacecraft just landed on top. And whenever you and I ever watched any shows on Teotihuacan, what we're mispronouncing the heck of it right now. In Mexico, that was supposed to be a worship center. They think it was a worship center of the gods, blah, 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 all that great stuff. But if you look at it, it looks like an airport terminal. Like it literally has if you walk through the airport, it has one big hallway and then it has gates on the side. And so this thing has a big alleyway in the middle. And then on the side, it has these, some of them are smaller, let's say temples, but they're bases. They're staircase base.
Yeah, like a pyramid, but flat.
Flat pyramid. Flat top
low,
pyramid.
Flat top pyramid.
Yeah. And so you would walk up the stairs, and then guess what? Here's the flat top guess what? Something would park on. And then at the end of it is the big one. So, it is, like you don't have to be rocket scientists just to look at the layout, go, wait, this resembles an airport. And they said the cultures like disappeared from there, and they would greet the gods in their stories, and all that.
And there's several ancient civilizations that talk about the 7 wise men, and sometimes there's women that come along with them too. They have wives, right?
I don't know.
That came over and they introduced, here's agriculture, here's animal husbandry, here's all these things, here's astronomy, here's science and medicine, and the kernels of civilization were introduced at about the same time all across the world, oceans apart across the world.
Yeah.
In South America, in Egypt, I think Turkey.
I mean, ultimately.
Asia too, I want to say. Somewhere in Asia.
Right. It's like, it's interesting because
they all describe the same people. The same, like fair-skinned people with beards, which are, that's not what you would find in South America.
No.
That's not what you would find in Asia. It's
Yeah. What's his name? Graham Hancock refers to them as the not Anunnakis. What's the name that he calls them? Anyway, but his book called The Chariots of the Gods basically talks about these 7 men, women, I don't know what they are, the sages, that they travel through the world, and there's historical evidence of them in all of these parts, where post the deluge,
post flood,
civilization jumpstarts.
Yeah, so I mean we can date that to after the Younger Dryas period. So is it 11,700 BC?
Yeah, something like
11,700 years ago, one or the other. BC, I think.
I think it's BC, but yeah. But I guess the question, it really, and I think this is the part of the discussion is the Brookings report said in the 1960s chaos breaks loose and we're running scared for the hills and the world collapses, the economy collapses, the United States collapses if the idea of extraterrestrials gets released, right? But at some point within the last 10, 15, 20 years, the disclosure started.
Yeah, it's been dripping out between the Tic Tacs from the Navy pilots. There's what was it? There was some weird photo from a more recent lunar orbiter or something, and it had something really weird in there.
Did NASA drop out?
The NASA dropped out. It's like, oh, here's a whole bunch of, here's 50 photos from our whatever. Was it there? Was it Mars? I don't remember. And one of them was like, oh wait, there's something really weird in here. And then NASA's like, whoops, oh yeah, pay no attention to that one. That one was from a different mission. It's like it makes no sense that there would be something from a different mission in this.
To me, if NASA is paying millions of dollars to a theological research group to say, hey, run a theory of how would religion, whether if all of a sudden became that our entire Bible is the history of our extraterrestrial encounters and not God.
Yeah.
Now, I say this, there is God, right? There is such thing as source. There's such thing as universal creation. And that is a separate topic than the accounts of all the extraterrestrials in the Bible.
The quote Christian God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And, I guess the question I want to pose, maybe this is the topic of discussion, is if Jesus were to come to Earth and say that, oh yeah, you thought of me as a son of God, but I'm, by your definition, extraterrestrial, right? A humanoid.
Come to Earth on a spaceship.
Yes, but in the biblical accounts, it said that Jesus left in something cloud of something,
Mm-hmm.
which is how back in the day they described spacecraft.
Right, or chariots. It's like, well, what else? What other vehicle is there other than a chariot back in the day? That's so. How else could you describe it?
Yeah, right. Didn't get on a donkey.
Yeah, wasn't a donkey.
Rode into the white clouds on a donkey. Yeah. So if Jesus is extraterrestrial and our entire Christian structure of belief is based on that, is the world
ready for that?
Imploding?
I don't know. I mean,
what changes? What changes?
What changes in your day-to-day life? What really changes? I don't think much changes. But I'm not a super devout Christian either. So plenty of people's faith would be very shaken at that, I'm sure. They would. There will be some people that go, okay, I'll accept this. And there are some people who be like, no, I will never accept this.
The only thing that changes is the perception, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but Christians believe that Jesus was literally the Son of God.
Yes.
The one and only God, and then Jesus is the one and only Son.
Well, in a sense, we are all children of God, but yes. But yes, Jesus is both the Son of God and also the embodiment of God in the Trinity.
Yeah, but at the same time, if Jesus were to be outed as extraterrestrial,
outed.
Yes,
out of the spaceship closet.
Sure, he's still a son of God. He is still a being of God. Just like an extraterrestrial is a being of God. Yeah. Everything in the universe is a being of God.
There was that Catholic bishop or something who was talking about this on that same show. And he said, yeah, the existence of aliens doesn't change anything for me. There's still he still believes in
God.
the Christian God, and he's like, yeah, I would totally have no problem baptizing in ET.
Right.
And
the guy's
know,
point was like, that is a big assumption that they want to believe in your silly
Yeah.
religion.
and as opposed to, if anything, wanting to convert you to their religion.
Right.
Right.
Or, I don't know. Or maybe they are, Hindu or Buddhist. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a big assumption then like, oh yeah, guess what? Well, as a Christian nation, we'll continue to go and now spread Christianity
Yeah.
into the outer realms.
Colonization all over again.
Well, I mean, the foundation, right? His foundation style.
Yeah.
Rhetoric.
But I mean, in as much as, every creature is a creature of God, then why would an alien not be a creature of God? To his point.
No, but they are.
So
They are.
So if baptism is your thing, why are they not candidates for it?
Yeah.
Sure. So I'll accept that position.
No, but what I'm trying to say is, if Jesus outs himself as extraterrestrial, what does it matter to us? Like our faith, right? If you're Christian, I'm not Christian enough to judge the nuance of what it means to be Christian. So, but I don't see how Christianity needs to be threatened because God is God, right? Love is love.
Yeah.
Oneness is oneness. So at the core, the teaching of Jesus is we are all children of God, extraterrestrials and humanoids, right? How is that still not the case?
Right. I mean, assuming that's the message is that, yeah.
That is the message of Christianity.
This was always the message. You guys messed it up when you rewrote this book.
Yeah, but that is the message of Christianity. We're all children of God. That is the message of Jesus. We're all children of God. And we are all, carry the essence of creation within us.
Yeah.
Him being extraterrestrial
in as much
or
as
human.
that message doesn't change, what's the... I don't think people will... I think a lot of people will go, that's not the real Jesus. Even if he comes down and... I mean, how do you prove you're the real Jesus? We've had countless people claim to be Jesus, and that never ends well.
Well, if Jesus comes and he says that he's Jesus, and he's able to perform all the miracles that he did in the Bible...
Fake news. I don't believe it. It's CGI. I don't believe it. No, I mean, I just know that there will be a not insignificant group of people who do that.
But does that change anything?
No.
So then they stick to the fact that they don't believe that this particular Jesus is the real Jesus.
They're the original Christians, not these neo-alien Christians.
Yeah.
I don't know. It will just divide.
Do you think it will continue to divide?
I think it will divide. I do. Which is sad because, like, if Jesus literally comes back, it would be a divisive thing. Which is not what he would want, I would think.
If Jesus were to come back, just like the Christian Bible promised that he would, and in this case, he's not completely as our idea of human is, how does that change our perception on Christianity or structure, or why are we flipping out? Like, what changed?
Right. I mean, to me, it doesn't change anything. To me, it in fact clears it up. I'm like, oh, this is a lot more plausible, a lot more digestible for me. I'm like, this makes a lot of sense.
Because currently, if you take Jesus's biblical stories, let's say of raising the dead, right? Dolores Cannon in her books on the Essenes, right, points out that Jesus was an Essene, and he was born into an Essene upbringing, right? Or at least he learned from the Essenes who lived in Qumran. And the teachings of Jesus were the same teaching of the Essenes. And the Essenes had contact with, she said, the bringers of knowledge or the keeper of knowledge, right? Or is that what they were referenced in the back? But let's be honest, they're just extraterrestrials, right? And so the essence of our spiritual guidance, of our spiritual knowledge, is the one in the same story between extraterrestrials and spirituality, right? Our spiritual teachings came from the teachings that the extraterrestrials brought to us through the history. So it's like, to separate it would be to deny the fact that we actually have this belief to begin with. Like, we would have to take the fact that we believe in angels, and we have to take the fact that we believe in God, and then being the rays of God that fractalize into this form, and carriers of love and propagation of unity. And we would have to scrape that off if we choose not to believe into the bringers of that knowledge to us,
Right.
who are extraterrestrials.
Right. I mean,
Like, you can't separate the two.
And where's heaven? It's up there in space, right?
Right. Right. I mean, because right now, and correct me since you have more knowledge of Christianity than I do, when Jesus brings someone back from the dead, we think that's magic. Christians think that's magic.
Well, it's a miracle.
I know.
I don't think they like the word magic, but yeah.
But it's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
But it's unexplainable miracle. We cannot explain.
We cannot explain that.
It's
walking on water, can't explain that.
Right.
Turning water into wine, can't explain that. Dividing the loaves and fishes, can't explain that.
Or restoring vision to somebody. Right. We can't explain any of that other than it is a miracle of God.
That's next on Neuralink's thing to do, is to restore vision to a blind person.
I would question how humanity will interpret that.
I think they'll just see it as an advance of medical science, in the same way that they gave that guy the ability to move, at least interface with a computer using only his mind, which is certainly better than not being able to, right? And I don't know the details if this person was blind from birth or lost their sight in an accident or what, or how they're going to do it. I assume there's some sort of camera that connects to some wires that send signals to the brain. But that's
if their optic nerve is damaged, but if the nerve is not damaged, but they're just improperly connected to the
right.
cerebral
So just
cortex, then.
Signals to the optic nerve that hopefully the brain can interpret as
vision,
as image, vision, right, which sounds really fiddly to do. Sounds like you really got to hook it up the right way.
Well,
but I don't know. Then again, the brain is amazing and can rewire itself. Like, oh, you had a stroke, we'll just rewire around that and fix it to some degree.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, the neuroscience talks about
neuroplasticity.
Yeah, just the brain's ability. Like, it's not like this area is responsible for this function, and if this area were to have a clot and then therefore stroke out, it's not like that. Neuroplasticity cannot be taught or to generate it out
to a large
elsewhere.
degree. Yeah, it can do that. So I guess maybe there are some places that this is all this does, and if you don't have this, oh well, your heart's not going to beat anymore, and you're going to die. Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can like a newborn. We think of as like an empty slate, right? And obviously they have instincts and some stuff that has been passed down in the same way that a horse that's like 5 minutes old can get up and walk. So what where does that come from? But it's all for humans. It's anything we consider a higher function, other than breathing and beating your heart and expressing your hormonal glands inside, all that stuff, which we just assume is just like baseline, and that's all subconscious, right?
Yeah.
But like all the conscious stuff, it's all learned.
Yeah.
It's we're as far as conscious knowledge, it's all learned. How to find motor control is all learned. So yeah, it makes sense you'd be able to learn it again if part of it's damaged.
Yeah, I mean, there's a thought process that if our body is just a machine, right? Or some like yesterday, I heard somebody refer to it as a spacesuit, right? If it's a suit, we come in order to interface with Earth in this linear time and space, right?
Mm.
Then by default, it being a spacesuit means that our consciousness is held elsewhere, right?
Mhm.
And then thus our interpretation of this part working this way or that part working this way is one through repetition into belief that it does, right? But to the same extent, going back to vision, it is a conscious belief that we lost vision, right? So if you step out and step out and step out, they have those research studies that they do with people on multiple personality disorders.
Yeah,
Do you remember?
yeah. This is
And
crazy.
and somebody can have like 10 personalities, and in one of them they have a birthmark here, but they don't have it in the other personality, and they are like almost blind in this personality, but they can see in a different
Yeah.
personality.
Unfakeably blind. Like, there's no way to fake like a pupil dilation from light. You can't
Yeah, no, doctors certify all this.
fake that. We got this personality doesn't respond and this personality does in the same body.
Well,
There's
no,
no
so,
how
so yeah, during hypnotherapy or whatever, they take a person's personality, go, okay, now you're this personality, which is the personality of that play. And then they say, okay, now we switch you over to this personality. And they can actually measure like birthmarks coming and going, scars coming and going, vision coming and going. This is all scientifically proven, right? Which proves to me that the conscious belief of our body, let's say, is driven through a structure. The structure of this form is driven from our consciousness that is outside of this form, right? And then when we pipe into our different narrative, different belief structure of what this form is, that form adjusts to the conscious output.
Yeah, I mean it's like Joe Dispenza's, position that, your mind can, literally heal your body. It literally creates whatever chemicals are needed to heal or hurt your body.
Mm-hmm.
But like to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. But, restoring vision, Jesus' standpoint, right, is tuning in or helping the individual tune in into the conscious narrative or conscious belief system where this form has vision. Do you see what I mean?
Mhm.
That to us, that's magic or miracle or whatever that is. But it is simple manipulation, just like we do in science, right? Documenting these people go from not seen to seen based on personality. This goes back to my my experience where I was a particle, right? And they took me from the particle. Remember, I was saying, and I came into this form, and my form concretified itself or whatever into the belief system that is the structure. But right, my form is one interpretation of that conscious. But if that conscious belief structure is different, then the form would be different.
Yeah.
Now, are we there yet as my interpretation of human? No. But
Yeah. I think it's just, the I think the unification of spirituality, for lack of a better word, and
no, it's still
science
spirituality.
there needs to be more of a unification there.
Yeah, but
So-
I think spirituality and our belief in extraterrestrial existence, one, but then two, just recognizing everything that we're able to do and everything that they already do and have done for millions of years is the same. Do you see what I mean? So not only are we combining spirituality and science from our humanoid standpoint, then we have to realize, well, wait, there are cultures, extraterrestrial cultures, races that have already been there and done that, right? And we're just kind of like the, I would say the bastard child, but we're not really the bastard child. We're very important, because consciously, as a unified field, we're going through the process of upgrade from lower dimensional into higher consciousness, and that's extremely important for really the rest of the galaxy. Just seeing us go through that transition, or seeing a race go through that transition. Right. I mean, hence the interest, right? I think, like Matthias said, that they see us as an informational base, right? Right. Do you remember him saying that? Yeah, he said that to them, the interest in us is that we are information, right? And I'm like, that sounds sterile. Like, I didn't like. I mean, I'm not saying it's not completely true, but just the way I interpreted it, it sounded very sterile to me. Like, oh, there's no us as human; it's just information. But I think it's one and the same. It is us as human that is information, but that information is the greater consciousness, which is the essence of humanity. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I would put more heart into the statement that we're information, as opposed to making it more sterile. I don't see like disclosure or acknowledgement of different races as an existential threat
I don't
to
either.
humanity.
I guess I never did. That said, I know that there are, plenty of especially in America, woohoo, gun wielding people who just from their personality would be the type that would just shoot an alien on sight. I fear that those people exist.
In Texas.
Possibly in Texas. What's the guy? Yosemite Sam.
Oh yeah.
Type of people. You just Wild West.
Yeah.
Y'all look different than me.
Yeah, I think generationally, in 1960s, the generation of people that lived then, when the Brookings Report determined that,
We're less open to this.
or
Yeah.
I'm not saying the Brookings Report was right or wrong. I don't know, right? I wasn't here in the 1960s to even weigh in on that. But if I had to judge, like generationally, maybe how the country was, post World War II, you're kind of still in that iffy state of fear, right? Still recovering from the war. And then there's this other threat, right? Like Nazis was a threat.
Project High Jump. That's what it was. To send the boats down to Antarctica.
Oh, okay. Right. So if you're already in fear, 10 years away from war, 15, I guess, depending on when you count
and
it.
now there's, bigger and bigger nuclear weapons every week.
Yeah, there's
we've got them, and the Soviets got them, and
yeah,
oh my
and
gosh,
this is in the midst of Cold War too, right? So there's already fear, right?
Right.
So you're
Is it
already
aliens
afraid of
or
the
is it
source,
Russians?
right? And so like maybe that was just at the time that was just another thing on the plate that they did not need to have.
Yeah.
And so they decided to continue to develop technology in secret, right? But now I was thinking they did kind of work themselves up into a pickle of like, we have to admit that we've been lying to you for the last 70 years, right?
Yeah, but you can almost, blame the predecessor on that. Well, it was, Director Smith's choice, and we just kind of all had to do it. I don't know.
I mean, you could just blame the Brookings Report.
Sure.
Right. I mean, I do think that is the truth. I think at the time they did feel like this needs to be secret. Now, for whatever reason, whatever, money, control, basically just to mitigate the mass panic. But I think that generation, this is going to be a rude statement here, is dying out.
Yeah.
And some of them are actually opening up to alternative theories. I mean, we also have a lot of extraterrestrials implanted in the human culture.
Yeah.
That we don't realize.
Mhm.
And so I think there is something to be said about those individuals coming out as extraterrestrials, and then now us having liked them for so long,
Right.
and feel homey to them, I guess. Not
I mean, Men in Black style. Was it? Weren't there a whole bunch of famous people that were actually like Elvis was an extraterrestrial, and
is that what the joke
I
was?
thought so.
Yeah. No, but that would be a really easy way for disclosure, is everyone who is extraterrestrials who just outed themselves, just like Jesus, and went, hey, guess what?
By the way,
Yeah, you know how you loved me for the last 2,000 years and you prayed to me every night, right? Yeah, yeah, like I don't think you would want to go kill Jesus, right? If Jesus outed himself, right? Like there would be pause,
I hope so.
right? There would be
I hope
pause
so.
if you spend the
Let's go
last
kill Jesus
2,000,
again.
right? No, but there you go. I think about that narrative. If we have spent the last 2,000 years trying to repent for our sins because we killed the Son of God, do we want to kill the Son of God again? Right?
Didn't get it right this time.
What do you mean, kill him for real?
Kill
Or
him. Yeah. Clearly, we didn't kill him good enough. I don't know.
no, but there's got to be a pause there,
I
right?
sure hope
There's got to
so.
be a
I sure hope
pause of
so.
like, hey, we did the wrong thing 2,000 years ago, and we pray to Jesus asking for our sins. Let's say, is that what the Christianity is based on? You ask forgiveness for the sins of killing Jesus.
It's not for specifically killing Jesus.
And what do they ask for forgiveness
For
for?
your current sins,
Oh.
or if you're Catholic, for and I guess original sin too.
Of killing Jesus?
No, of Eve eating the fruit.
Oh, original sin. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. They did not feel the sin of killing Jesus.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that's.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing.
I would feel guilty if I were a Roman
You
killing
didn't-
Jesus.
Was it Romans? I mean, the Romans, of course, carried it out, but
It was the Romans. It was the governmental structure at the time. Yeah. Anyway, so there might be hope, right? If you spend last time 2,000 years praying to somebody, you might not kill them right away. You might wait.
let's wait a minute. Let's have a trial first.
Can you put Jesus on trial?
They did. The Romans put Jesus on trial.
It was a fake trial.
Yes, it was a fake trial, and it was just political pressure that made Pilate do it. But
I don't know.
Oh.
I guess the question I was thinking about that I had come up a week ago is, if extraterrestrials were, just let's say came out, right?
Mhm.
How much fear, right, based on Brookings' report, would come up, right? Like, are we in fear? Are we living in fear? Is our entire religion and existential reality threatened if we go, oh, look, here are the people from Sirius?
Well, I mean, in as much as that, with human nature, whenever some advanced civilization with advanced technology comes over to meet a more primitive one, that does not work out well for the primitive one. Look at, the basically the Europeans going anywhere the Europeans went, because they had ships, and they had armor, and they had guns, and they had swords, and they had gunpowder, and they had all this stuff, and they come over to North and South America, they India, they everywhere, and they just impose their rule, and any sort of resistance is met with death and destruction. And so, if extraterrestrials come over, then they, by definition, have technology that far surpasses ours, because we can barely get off the planet.
But it would be different if the United States government said, here are extraterrestrials, and we have been working with them for the last 70 years.
That would help. That would help.
Right? Like, it's not like, oh, here's extraterrestrials, and we ourselves didn't even know about. Do you
That
know
would
what I
help.
mean?
That would help. But at the same time, there is this, they could totally just wipe us out if they wanted to.
But if we have 70 years of working
I think
history
that would
with
help.
them,
I think that would help.
right?
Yeah.
That we're not in that narrative. We're not in a narrative like, oh, surprise, our government for the first time realizes that there are aliens, right? Like, no, for the last 70 years, we have been working on a relationship with them. And we do have a good relationship with them. There's exchange programs, there's, communications, everything is hunky-dory. We just wanted to introduce you to them.
That would help. I think it would help, but I still think that some groups of people would still be deathly afraid. It's change. Change is scary to a lot of people.
Deathly afraid is the same thing as like the COVID was change, right?
Yeah.
It was unknown.
And
we're afraid of the unknown.
We saw how that went.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is we're afraid of the unknown. But
not how it went, medicinally, but how it went psychologically.
No, I'm talking about psychologically here too. But think about it. COVID was a great example of here's something that comes in that seems to be all powerful. We are unaware of anything about it. How will the society handle it? And that was it, right? Like, oh, lock your doors, lock up your children,
hide your wife,
don't go outside, right? And we spend at least 3 to 6 months, depending on the state, living in some sort of seclusion or fear of this unknown, right? But if the alien race or any one of the races comes up and goes, hey, here we are, but we are known to your government. We have been working with world governments for the last 70 years. We've been on this planet even before your government existed. We're benevolent.
By the way, we created you. You're welcome.
Well, there's that too. I don't know if they would disclose that right away.
Jesus, he was one of us.
Yeah, I don't know how people would handle that. I want to point out.
And so now you must pray to us.
I don't think they would.
No, I don't know.
No, in Dolores's canon book, right? And this is, if those who are not familiar with her, she was a past life regressionist through hypnotherapy that regressed a lot of people in their past life. And in her book on the Essenes, she talks about one of the teachers in the Qumran who lived with Jesus, or not lived with Jesus, who was one of the teachers in younger Jesus development, right? And in her book, through all of these past life regressions, she talks about how John of Arimathea, right, who is Jesus's uncle, was considered to be not Polynesian, but what's the other thing? Wherever the thing is.
Peloponnesian?
No, Polynesian is like a region.
Peloponnesian?
No. Phoenician?
Phoenician, maybe.
Phoenician, right? Okay, yeah, Phoenician. Which were known as, I think, like the literal translation of whatever it is, as like people from elsewhere or whatever it was. It is not human elsewhere, right? And they were different in the sense that they had different features than everybody else. They had the reddish hair, and I think light color eyes. And it was so Mother Mary would have been her his sister, I guess. And that Jesus were of that bloodline, and then he's at the time was the wealthiest person on earth because he had the secret knowledge of how to work with tin and then transmute it into bronze, through whatever chemical processes we use right now to work with tin into bronze. But he was the original person who did that from the knowledge that at the time. And so actually there's a researcher in Great Britain that Dolores Cannon mentions that actually wrote a book based on historical accounts of how John of Arimathea, or whatever his name was the owner of all of these ancient tin mines, and had a fleet of, like one of the biggest ship fleets in the world back at Jesus's times, and he was of elsewhere, or his family origin was of elsewhere, right? Now, that is how back in the day you say something that is not right. You wouldn't say like, oh, elsewhere is not Babylon, elsewhere is not Asia, elsewhere is not, you know, Aztec. Elsewhere is elsewhere. Right?
Up there.
Right. So when I propose a theory that Jesus is possibly not human, or not of complete human origin, I'm basing this, one, on the things that come to me, and two, on like just read Dolores Cannon stuff.
Mhm.
Right? She literally implies that. Zechariah Stitchin implies that. Eric Van Doniken implies that. Graham Hancock implies that. And then heck, there's a lot of biblical scholars, theologian right now, who also think that.
Yeah.
It's just, it is not a popular opinion right now because, we're still questioning
Little
of
fringe, yeah.
what would happen to humanity if
Yeah.
the origins of Christianity, right? The Christianity can still continue to exist, but the origin of Christianity is questioned.
This is super, super sacrilegious, but the virgin birth could be the product of, like, calling it an abduction would be wrong, but some sort of alien intervention to inseminate Mary.
Yeah. I mean,
with,
there's that.
I don't know, hybrid something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but but even if it's not the case, right? But obviously, why would you rule that out? Like, what is the idea of virgin birth, right?
Yeah.
In the Essene books, she does talk about that Jesus was the son of Joseph and was the son of Mary.
Biological son of Joseph?
She says that he was birthed through regular beings.
Oh yeah, come. I assume that he came out normally, but how did he get in there?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Right. Right. Interficial. I mean, the whole story of the Greys, like the conspiracy theory of Greys, artificially inseminating women, in the timelines, right, and then fiddling with human DNA,
Mm.
But he was meant to come into the bloodline.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. That was his destiny, and then the Qumran from the Essenes book knew that he was coming, and he knew that he was coming into that bloodline. They didn't know which woman, but they knew it would be a woman of that bloodline.
And on Joseph's side, Joseph traces directly back to what, Noah or something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was
it's
a very
like-
special situation.
Like, here's two ridiculously important bloodlines meeting in these two people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know, this particular episode went all kinds of ways. But like everything that I have ever
Maybe even Abraham. I don't know.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Moses going to the hill and getting a thing from a burning bush,
Mountain.
or whatever.
The hill.
Mountain. I don't know.
Mount Sinai.
Oh, I don't know where. I mean,
Wait, Mount Sinai? Mount Ararat.
I don't know.
Ararat's where Noah's ark landed.
Yeah,
So
allegedly.
Mount Sinai.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And so him getting these commitments of how to live a life. What's his name? William Henry talks about apotheosis of George Washington.
Yeah, the painting on the inside of the dome of the U.S. Capitol.
Yeah. Why would someone in the United States Capitol paint George Washington being taken to heaven by the angels and sitting up in heaven with angels, which you would think that is a place of God, right? A place of Jesus or whatever the situation is, right? And why would they do that, right? I don't think it is simply there as a metaphorical representation of how much we appreciate him, and surely all of his good deeds will send him to heaven. I don't think it's as simple
I don't
as
think
that.
it's that. No.
Yeah. The amount of metaphors and details within the dome. I mean, you go to I don't know, can people go to the Capitol Dome and just
I
see
don't know
it?
if we can go anymore.
I don't know. I mean, he did, and he has pictures of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can find the pictures online.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's George Washington, whatever. And people speak with him about him as, the guidance for him to start a nation, a free nation, was high, guided from a higher guidance, right?
Yeah.
And you can look at it as God.
Yeah.
Or ... whatever the new version of God is.
Yeah.
And then the Knights of Templar talk about the same thing, is that when they gathered all of their but when the Knights of Templar started, their goal was to preserve the ancient knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, they say ancient knowledge, like ancient knowledge. They don't imply that it's human knowledge, right? They imply it as this is historical knowledge of all teachings, including spiritual awakening, that is not even earth-based. Now, Earth is going through it right now, but it is not an earth-based concept, right? It is a universal concept, but universal quite literally in the physical realm as well, like galaxies and, Milky Ways and solar systems and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like you can't disconnect the two.
Yeah.
Are we done?
Yeah. Sure.
Do you have anything to add?
No.
No. That's it. We're just going to leave it like that.
Highly recommend the show.
Oh yeah, the show's good. I think that, the show's there. Whatever you want to take out of it will be it. But I think if nothing else, our mind is meant to be open to a larger scope.
Yeah. And the fact that various, things are being disclosed by the government these days. It's it isn't yet. Guess there are aliens, but it's, oh hey, we can't explain this UFO situation. We can't explain this. It's not, hey, it didn't happen. It happened. We can't explain it. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, but I think they're testing the waters. And there's more and more stuff in the Hollywood that is going that direction of like acceptance of other races, acceptance of other
Yeah.
ideas, openness to larger concepts.
I guess I'm surprised that I thought people would make a bigger deal out of the whole Tic Tac thing, Tic Tac video from the Navy pilots being, confirmed by the Navy as, yeah, this happened. We don't know what it is, but nobody cares.
Yeah,
Nobody cares. So it's like, they could say, hey, yes, aliens, have come and gone, and we're talking to them, and maybe nobody would care. Maybe.
no, but I think what's happening is they do this, because I'm sure there's a plan, and it will be a drip plan. It will be like, okay, we'll disclose this, and it'll go out there, and you'll make it into the media, and
We'll judge the reaction.
We'll judge the reaction for a couple of months and see how that goes. And then, in a couple of months, something else will drip out, and we will not deny it and go, yes, this happened. And it will just be nudged and nudged and nudged. And then, yeah, sooner or later, remember back in the 2009 when Barack Obama was receiving his Nobel Peace Prize in Norway?
Mm-hmm. And the Norway spiral happened the night before?
Yeah, the Norway spiral happened before. He said that he had intention of introducing an alien race. That's the conspiracy theory
Yeah.
then, or at least talking about the existence thereof.
And that same night before, the
Alleged.
alleged pyramid appeared over the Kremlin. I'm not as convinced about that one myself.
Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah.
But the spiral was strange.
Well, the spiral happened. There's no doubt that the spiral
Yeah,
happened.
there's multiple people that I guess there's spiral was reported in the news by real news media, not as like, oh look, somebody uploaded this video to YouTube.
Yeah.
Let's report
This
that.
is the spiral definitely happened.
Yeah.
And later on, apparently Russia claimed that it was one of their missile tests that went awry. I don't know. I don't think it was that. I don't know. I can't explain it, but missile test seems weird.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's another conspiracy, I guess,
Right.
out there is that Barack Obama was gonna disclose larger things, but then somebody stopped them back in 2009. For whatever. And maybe Earth is not ready or whatever in 2009. But we're far away from that now. Is it 2009?
I think it was 09.
That's a
Wait,
long time ago.
09 and then because the one over the Pentagon, December of 09. Because another one was over the Pentagon, pyramid over the Pentagon in 18, allegedly.
Yeah, I
Which
don't believe that
I'm
one.
even less convinced about that one.
Yeah, the pyramid stuff just seems not real.
Not real. All the circumstances around it are super sketchy.
Yeah. But it's almost like disinformation.
I think it is.
Yeah. So yeah, I think everybody has to feel what they feel inside. What is their truth? And the truth is very individualized, Depending on the frequency that you function, your truth might not be the truth that we're speaking. Because there's, the timelines have narratives. Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.